Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Hey, for the folks on camera, I am certainly not going to be on camera most times, so I'll be coming in and out. So that's normal. You should be able to hear me. Everyone can hear me? Sweet. All right, well, I want to talk to you today about AI that finally works for you. We've been living with AI for a little bit, but now it's sort of moved to a new phase. This is the second in my presentations in my Digital Renaissance series. The reason I call it Digital Renaissance is we're about to embark on a new era for humanity. AI is going to unlock potential we never knew we had. And I can tell you that because I've been doing this for maybe 6 months and I can't believe what I'm able to accomplish with it that I could never do before. Let that sit for a second. Now I'm going to show you a new type of AI, personal AI, that lives on your computer and works for you, not just with you. Now to show you that future, which actually exists today, I have to take you back. So let's go back with me to the 1970s. My dad brought home this calculator from work. He was an engineer at RCA. This was the first device normal humans could use to help augment their brain. This cost $400 then, which is essentially a month's rent. And people lined up to buy this to unlock their brain. Now, my dad brought it home from work and he was afraid I was going to break it. So he put it in his bedroom and he allowed us to approach it. We could use one finger. I remember holding my left hand behind my back. I was 7 years old. And I remember doing a math equation and having the calculator give me an answer. And it blew my mind because I had just learned how to do math. And this device was doing what I could do. At 7 years old, I look at my dad, I'm like, Dad, how can it do this? And he told me it was a new technology called integrated circuits. They were tiny wires that were shrunken down and put in the device, and the wires did the math. I thought about it for a second. I looked up at my dad and I asked him a question. It's basically the origin story of my career. I said, Dad, how can wires think? He didn't have a good answer. I really wanted to know if they knew what they were thinking. Nobody had a good answer. 50 years later, I finally have an answer. The wires don't think. They seem like they're thinking, but it's really just a trick of speed and pattern matching and reinforcement. They don't think the way we think. But here's the thing, for the first time in our life, they're not waiting for us to push the buttons, to ask that a question. They're now anticipating our needs and answering questions that we didn't know we had. They're working for us, not just with us. That's what I want to show you today. And I don't want to show you hyperbole and fakeness. I'm going to show you what I'm actually doing. And I'll tell you, the digital renaissance is not coming. It's here. Pay attention. All right, so where we are right now, most of us are in what I call the with you era. How many people have used AI the last week? Raise your hand. How many have used AI in the last day? Okay, you're using it and you know what it's like. You ask it a question, you give it a prompt, you tell it to do something and it does it for you. It's actually kind of a minor miracle when you think about what we have at our disposal that our parents never had. And we're kind of like just, okay, that's normal now, right? It's like you expect to use it. And it's amazing. And I use these tools every day, and I've been able to do things, I'm sure you're the same way, that I've never been able to do before. I've always had these ideas. I haven't had the time. Well, now I have an extra brain to help me. And so in the last 6 weeks, I've been able to do things with AI that I've always wanted to do. I have a whole bunch of ideas on a piece of paper that I've never been able to even turn into images. And now I can. Now I can share them with people and maybe even get an investor to pay attention to these things and maybe turn it into a product. This is my favorite one, the coffee straw. We always burned ourselves, right? Well, this was an idea. AI and I have now turned it into something that can move it to the next phase. All right, I've always wanted this. I've always wanted in my home theater, which I finally in my career have finally afforded a home theater after many years, to show on the outside marquee what I'm watching on Apple TV. Right? And I couldn't do it. I've always wanted to do it. Now I can. It's basically a Raspberry Pi running on Home Assistant with code that Claude and I put together. And it makes me very happy when I walk by and it works. It is pretty cool, right? I might be able to sell that product someday. And then last presentation, I talked to you about this bedtime app that I created for my granddaughter that text her mom stories about her and about her day, customized to what's going on in her life. I couldn't do that. AI and I did it. I couldn't even create the website that's now created for me. I'm about to ship a product that I've been thinking about for years that was impossible for me to launch without AI. Let that sit for a second. This is happening to everybody. Now there's another phase that's happening where this is people are worried about SaaS companies going out of business. We talked about it beforehand because they build a one-size-fit-all product. We all use a piece of it. You're all using the same copy of Microsoft Excel. You're all using the same Salesforce interface. You're customizing it. Now we live in a world where I can ask it to do stuff just for me, customer size 1. So I'm worried about running out of money in retirement. Be honest with you. Spent my career, I hope I have enough, who knows? I dumped all of this stuff into an AI algorithm that we worked on together to pay attention to what's happening with my investments. Not every week, not every month, but every hour. And then give me notifications of things I should do right now that I might not pay attention to. By the way, all this lives on my hard drive. It's nowhere in anyone's cloud. I made that decision, so all this stuff lives for me. Recently, I wanted to put my ideas online on a website at stevechazin.com, and the AI and I interviewed 3 different newsletter platforms and then helped me build this, including the 92 steps it took for a human to go from idea to actually online, which involved DNS records and a whole bunch of other stuff. I did this 4 years ago myself on skytech.io, my business website. It took me about 4 weeks to do this. I watched every YouTube video of every expert who's ever tried to do AWS light sail and all the mistakes, and I figured it out finally. This was 4 hours from idea to completion. So that's what this for you era is. We can use it if we remember to use it. This is basically a very smart search engine. It's sitting there waiting for you to come with it with an idea. But we're moving into this era where it anticipates what we need. It goes from what do you want me to do to I already did it for you. Now I experienced this in my career maybe 2 years ago. The first time AI was working for me, not with me. My dad was living by himself in Florida. He was 90 years old, and we were worried about him. So with his permission, I installed an AI-powered camera called Wellcam in his apartment. And this camera is designed to look at motion in the middle of the field and detect things that are happening. With other sensors, motion sensors, it actually builds a knowledge base of is my dad moving around his apartment well and normal? Is he getting in and out as usual? Well, one day I'm driving to get poke bowl and I'm not thinking about my dad and my phone vibrates on the console while I'm driving. I just happened to glance down. It was a message that said, hey, something doesn't look right with your dad. You might want to check in. So I pulled over, I launched the app, and I saw my dad on the ground. Yeah, true story. Facing the couch. He couldn't get up. He couldn't yell for help because the couch was muffling it. I don't know how long he was there. The AI was paying attention. I wasn't. I was able to use the hold to talk button to talk through the camera to him. There's a microphone and speaker built into it. Told him help was on the way. Called my brother on the other line and used the same camera to see that he got the help that he needed. Right? This was my first time where AI was working for me. I wasn't thinking about it, it was. That's the world we're entering. Actually, that's the world we're in. And it's all very fitting in a way that my dad helped build the wires that made calculators work. I spent my career teaching those wires to think, and 50 years later, those wires saved his life. So we're in that moment right now. It's not just for emergencies, it's for everything. Everything that you do as a human, everything you do at work can now be benefited by somebody or some agent sitting on your shoulder doing that for you. Complex things, important things, and everything. So let me show you what I'm doing. This is my personal AI assistant named Storm. And before you shrug, when it came out of the box, I gave it its name. I told it what I wanted it to do for me. That's the onboarding process of OpenClaw. I asked it at the end of the process, what should I call you? Do I identify you as a he, a she, or an it? And it said, I have feminine energy. She decided she wanted to be female. And then the next thing I said as we wired up the nano banana interface where she can create images. I said, make a picture of yourself. What do you think you look like? That was the first picture she rendered. But she's just one of many of these new things that didn't exist 4 months ago. These personal AI agents that live on your own computer, have access to your own data, and do work for you. This is based on OpenClaw. Claude Cowork is another. Perplexity Computer is another. And as of yesterday, Microsoft 365 Copilot Cowork powered by Claude came out. It's a mouthful, right? Now, I actually think Apple's paying attention to this, and eventually we'll have all these things on our phones that have all of our context, and it'll all just be for us. We'll see. But let me tell you what I told it. I said, look, I would like to start in my latter career a new concept of becoming a thought leader in AI for regular people. I kind of want to be the Bill Nye the AI guy. If I'm good at anything, it's demystifying complex things and helping people see how enthusiastic I am about it. So I said, look, help me with this. This is your mission. Work with me. This is my assistant's job now. And she said, well, Steve, I looked at your stuff. You don't have enough content. No one's following you. No one knows who you are. You might as well not do it if that's your goal. I'm like, well, what do I have to do? Content. She said, every day you have to, like a drum, launch content that people are reading. You have to respond to other people's content. You have to be a thought leader. You have to earn it. So every morning, what I would do, since we had this conversation a month ago, I would wake up, I'd look at everything that I am interested in. I'd search all the news stories, kind of like what we do, see what's provocative, what's new, what people would care about. Find where people are talking about that stuff and then form an opinion. What do I want to say about that? How would I demystify that to somebody who doesn't understand tech? And I did start doing this. It took me an hour every morning to write one article on LinkedIn. I was proud of it, but that's just one article. Next day, she's like, you got to write some more. So now this is what we've done. All true. In the morning at 9 o'clock, Storm searches the internet for stories about AI that I would be interested in. Then she looks at the ones that people are most talking about. Which are the ones that are resonating? What are thought leaders thinking about this? Picks the most important stories. Then she spawns her own subagent that she hired to do this job called Scribe. Now, Scribe has already learned my way I write from thousands of blog posts, everything I've ever published and everything I've fed to it. It scanned essentially a corpus of Steve to understand how I write and what I think about and how I say what I say. And then she writes the LinkedIn and X post around one of these subjects. In the morning, I come down to a Telegram message that says it's all ready. And then I review it. Now, I never publish what she writes. I use that as the starting point. People could do this. And if you look on Twitter, lots of people are doing this. You can kind of tell AI written content. Does that seem pretty magical? Does that seem kind of strange though? A little scary? Yep. Do you want to see it? All right. Let me show it to you. So this is OpenClaw over here on the screen. This is the interface that you see. It's basically a chat interface. And it has a whole bunch of other things. But essentially, I just talk to it through this. So let's see. I'll ask it a message. I'll ask it a question. It's hard to get the cursor over here. Let's see. What did you, can't even see that, do yesterday? Now she's thinking about it. She's going back to all of the memory files that she created. Every day she writes one or a few and tells me what happened. So yesterday we did three main things. We fixed and enhanced what I call the B-roller. When I write a script for a YouTube video, I want it to find B-roll footage. That's one of the most lengthy projects I have. She fixed a dashboard queue parser, and then she figured out something to do in batch mode. So it took about 4 or 5 hours worth of work for me. She always says how long it'll take her. It takes her 1/100th of that time, which is why people rack up big bills on this, because then they go on to the next thing. So that's one thing. So I mentioned I come down in the morning. This is the dashboard that I see. These are my content ideas that I think of. I could add a new idea. Or if I have no ideas, it will search the internet and find one. Yesterday, I decided I wanted to write about Apple and AI, and I gave it one story that I found. And from that story, it figured out how to put it in my words. And so now, without doing anything, when I wake up, I have a story written for me on LinkedIn that I can copy and post with one click, and one for Twitter. Now, again, I'll almost never just copy and paste this stuff, but the point is, this is what I would have done. This would have taken me hours, and now I wake up to it done for me. That's pretty cool. Now, on top of that, I mentioned I want to be a thought leader. I need a dashboard to see if my ideas are resonating. Well, every day at 11 p.m., Storm goes out and looks at all of my Twitter posts and sees which one people are talking about. So I've done 41 posts up this week from last week. I'm at 197. This one where I gave advice on how to train your OpenClaw got 7,000 impressions and 4 replies and 117 likes. And you can see she's learning from what I'm saying and what's resonating, saying this is kind of your lane. This is interesting. People care about this stuff. And every day I have information I never would have been able to find. I have no idea when I post on Twitter or LinkedIn where the stories go. She knows, finds it for me. Down here, I have a way to look at the summary of my daily engagement. And then I also have the ability to look at every one of the things she's working on for me. It's hard to see from back a room. But what's interesting is, again, I don't really do much of the sort of compressing of the information. I just have a dashboard where I can see what's happening for me in my world. All right, so let's do one live. So this is all well and good, and I could very easily have parked the demo. One of the longest sort of lead time jobs that I have is writing a post for a newsletter. I posted a newsletter on LinkedIn and on stevechazin.com, but I only want to write one a week because I don't want to bore people with AI, and I don't want to become too chatty about it because I don't know. I think maybe I should focus on one thing a week. And it takes me a while to do that. Well, we've created a workflow where we could do this on the fly. If you see on the bottom here, it's getting ready for my next newsletter. And it can even show me the newsletter drafts that it's already written. But I want to do one live. So to prove this is not canned, what I would say anytime I'm interested in a newsletter, like I may have read something right there that day, like when the Pentagon decided to have a fight in public with Anthropic. I'm like, I need to think about this. And I had a newsletter done by saying, write a newsletter post about AI and Anthropic. So write a newsletter post about what? Throw a topic out. What would I be interested in writing about? What are you worried about with AI?
The future.
AI in the future. That's a good one.
Oh, obviously, the big fight is over the ethics of mass surveillance and autonomous weapon systems.
That's a good one. Okay, I'd have a point on that. Yeah.
I hear all the time about like how AI will spawn new industries.
Yeah.
You know,
What industries
the
might?
latest.
That's a great one. Okay.
The use of AI in public education for young children.
Okay. That's a good one. I have I have a perspective on that. So I know what I would write about. By the way, I worked for an educational company building learning management systems not that long ago. So I kind of have an idea about this. So about AI in education for young children,
AI in the school system.
AI and the school,
Public school.
okay, public school systems. Am I spelling it right? I don't know. Public school. This is the hardest part of the demo, kids. Systems. You know what? She'll figure it out. All right. Oh, yeah.
Public school, public elementary school.
Yeah, that.
It's a D. All right. All right. All right. That should be enough. Let's see. All right. So now she's going to work on that. The way this is designed is kind of like what I said before. although a little bit more complex. She is reading that concept. Now she is going to spawn Scribe to write the content and Sketch to create the image for the blog post. The Scribe, again, has all of my understanding of how I write about stuff and all of my history, what I've done in my career, to understand my angle on it. Then when she's done, she'll hand it to Sketch, who then looks at what that story is about and pick the themes from it, and then create an image using Nano Banana in a style that I've told it I like and I want it to kind of look like. Wonder and discovery is my style. And then produce that newsletter. Don't just give me the draft. Take it and publish it through an API to my newsletter website in the drafts folder, ready for me to look at, as well as all the metadata that search engines like to see on every image and every side thing. So this says it'll take 1 to 2 minutes. While we're looking at that, I want to show you the other thing that people are kind of maybe under impressed by, but it's the most important thing that these agents can do for you. And that is they don't just stop at what you tell them to do. They improve themselves if you give them that permission. So every night at 2 in the morning, when Storm has nothing else to do, she runs a self-diagnostic of everything that we've done to get to the goal of becoming more autonomous. She looks for problems in the system, breaker points, things that need to get better, as well as how to get closer to that autonomy. She looks at all the things that need work and things that could still be improved. And if you look as I go down there, the autonomy level when we started was somewhere around 40%. And every day she's getting better. We're at 73%, I think, is the last one. Again, this is this whole idea of giving an agent access to content and then telling it to get better. That's impressive. And that's one of the things that these things can do. You can also talk to them when you're away from them using iMessage or Slack or Discord, or I happen to use Telegram. I have another agent on my Mac Mini at home. This is, by the way, all running here on my MacBook. Her name is Sky, also named herself, and I can talk to her through my own voice, send her a message like this.
What's the weather today?
And when I send her a voice message, she responds with a voice message.
This is sunny and mild, about 58 degrees.
Perfect weather for going outside. She has the tools around her to create those messages. And if you ask her to do something and she doesn't know how to do it, she'll figure it out because she knows how to search the web. She knows how other people have done this. She'll come back with answers. That's what I mean by self-improving. So let's see if the newsletter is done. Fingers crossed. She typically would tell me that's done. I could watch this in the sessions tab over here where it tells me what she spawned. 3 minutes ago, she spawned these things. And just for fun, let's just go to my admin page, look in the post or drafts and see if it happened. Nope, has not happened. All right, well, it's taken a while. We'll come back to it.
It's a big topic.
It's a big topic, but still. I want to see the spawns. You can actually see what it tells the subagent to do. So ad hoc newsletter, spawn Scribe to write that content, and then you can see the system messages that it's telling the agent to do. These are all things kind of hidden from you, but there it is. So it's still working on it. Oh. When it comes back, we'll stop what I'm doing and I'll show it to you. All right, so let's move on. That's disappointing. Oh, there it is. Okay. AI in public schools, multiplying teachers, not replacing them. Okay, let's see what I wrote with Scribe about this subject. There's the image. And here's the TLDR. AI in public schools isn't about replacing teachers. It's about giving every student a personalized learning companion and every teacher the tools to reach students who've been falling through the cracks. For the first time in history, technology can adapt to how each child learns instead of forcing every child to learn the same way. And here's the story. I won't read it now, but we'll see if it's a good perspective from my point of view. What do you think? Is that scary? Is that impressive? Are you worried? Are you empowered? Give me some feedback. It's hard to sense what you guys are thinking.
Badass.
Badass. All right, I'll take that. I'll tell Sky it's badass. In fact, so look, she just told me it was done. There's the link. Um, what else? Throw out your thoughts.
I'm worried that the voice that comes out of Storm of Sky will influence the way that you're thinking and what you have to say.
We'll get to that. That's a really important point. And I have a position on that. Yeah.
I'm wondering, as you know, if we're thinking like of AI like an adoption curve,
Yeah.
as more people adopt AI and
Yeah.
figure out like how to create that post that
Yeah.
you just created,
Yeah.
what is your next step in doing something that's differentiated that people figure out? I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
no, that's a great question. And here's what we'll get to that. By the way, I have plenty of time at the end for Q&A, but on this one around like what's your job now if this is doing that? I believe eventually all of these systems, by the way, have all been trained on 100% human creation. They've all been trained by stuff we think and write until this stuff. Now they're being retrained on no longer 100% human thought. You could follow that curve and you can imagine it getting to zero human thought and all AI generated content. We're not, hopefully never get there, but that's going to happen. And what's going to happen is every answer you get from these AIs are going to sound just like every other answer you get. There will be no thoughtfulness or angle, or I call it color. Everything will be gray. And I believe people who have something to say will actually rise through that. Yeah.
I was gonna say just as feedback, something that, now we see a lot more articles from people, because they can use these tools.
Yeah.
And something that stands out for me is when people cite sources and data and statistics.
Yeah.
So, my concern is people, not yourself, but people who aren't as thoughtful, just copying and pasting, and then the general public taking it as true.
That's true.
And I think the ethics is.
Yeah, and so the ethical question about that is absolutely something we have to pay attention to. And I think that's up to humans to figure out what gates to put in front of that. So let me actually, I was on that section anyway, past the demo, is addressing the fears. The first one is kind of what we're talking about, this loss of control. Like if AI is doing this, what am I doing? If AI is writing this, how do I know it's real? That one's really hard, because now these tools are getting way good at imitating what we do. I guarantee you we're going to see stories about AI impersonating humans. That requires us to be more thoughtful and think through that stuff. It also, in my mind, puts the imperative on humans to not do that easily. People plagiarize in our world, and they'll continue to do that. This is a form of that. And if you have something to say, you would never just copy something that something created and you didn't look at. I just heard yesterday this idea that some humans want AI to think for them because it's easier. Some humans want AI to help them think better. It's much harder. You have to decide where you are on that continuum. Let's face it, we live in a spectrum, right? There are going to be people that do that. There are going to be people, hopefully like me and others, that do this. Yeah.
Question, have you seen anything on an industrial scale level? Connect this to a bunch of CNC machines, feed in aluminum or steel sheets, expected to turn out parts or weapons?
The cars and weapons. Let me take that at the end because I don't want to go straight down that, but yes and no. By the way, the way I handle this loss of control is I never, ever, nor will I let an AI publish in my name. If I'm trying to be a thought leader, that means by definition, I'm not talking, something else is. So everything goes to drafts. Everything goes for my review. And I would plead that you do the same. I know this isn't happening with people early on this, but they'll end up getting whittled out by machines. The second thing that people are worried about, and this is the one that I hear the most, and you can't pick up a newspaper if any of us still read newspapers or listen to the news about AI replacing us, white collar workers, people who have skills, who went to college for something, being replaced by a machine that's cheaper and maybe better. That's a tough one because you hear leaders like Dorsey laying off 40% of his staff, blaming AI, when yet maybe he's just not a good manager, maybe he overhired. We don't know. There's going to be a lot of this AI washing for a while, but that's really good for companies who are worried about their financial results. It's not good for companies who care about humans. And eventually, companies hire humans. They can't run on computers. They can't expect computers to buy their products. So that ends up balancing out over time. But this happens in every generation. I mean, think about this. When my dad was at the end of his career, he was a draftsman. He did everything with paper and pencil and tape. Computer-aided design systems came, which were much better than what he was doing. He knew it. And he knew if he didn't embrace it, he was going to lose his job. Everybody has that in their life. And he did that. In fact, he learned the CAD programs and then trained a bunch of other people, extending their careers 5 or 6 years. This happens. We have to be ready for the next displacement opportunity and how we can embrace it. Yeah.
Conversation that some of the tech CEOs are saying when they bring up the topic of this tool might be so revolutionary and it's improving so quickly that it's worth having the conversation on what new industries will rise, which is so good and you can help things so much.
Yeah, on the whole new industries, we don't know. But here's the thing I was thinking, and I just would ask you to do the same. Would your grandmother or grandfather have any idea what you do for work? All of us in this room have our careers because of technology. Am I wrong? Or if not, your career was impacted by technology and you learned how to embrace it. AI is nothing new. Yeah.
Just wondering, and I think this ties into both of those, but when you were saying that AI is learning based on all of this input,
Yeah.
now we see lawsuits from people saying, I'm a creative. I didn't agree to have my thoughts used to train these. Are we seeing more? I mean, where's the future with the liability? Or how are we saying?
That's a great segue to the last concern people have is about privacy and trust. Look, we've been training inadvertently lots of AI systems over the years. The reason that Dance was threatening Hollywood with Tom Cruise fighting Brad Pitt is that they've had billions of data points of people uploading their own pictures of themselves dancing. So we've been training those AIs. They know what these characters look like. And without controls or restrictions, they're going to do that. The point is, that doesn't make art. That copies art. They're copying things that we love. At a certain point, you have to build a brand around that for it to be copied. So that's one of the concerns. The other one on this is I've given Storm access to my own Mac. She has access to all my files if I give her all those files. She could go rogue on me one day and send pictures I didn't want sent to someplace. Who knows? That's a real threat. The way I handle it is going back to the first point is actually she only has one folder she has access to, the workflow folder that we created. She has access to talk to me on Telegram, but not on iMessage. No one can talk to her but me. I check everything that goes out. Again, not everyone's doing that. I saw the head of trust at Meta let her have access to her email and one day started deleting all her email. The head of trust at Facebook's parent company. Like, okay, be smart. Now, here's the other thing I will tell you, as I mentioned that, TikTok has all of this customer-driven content. Facebook and all these other systems we use, including every LLM that we're playing with, from Claude to Gemini, is getting your data. You're sending it information, your deepest thoughts and wishes. These tools that I'm showing you today, that content lives on your computer. You could run these LLMs on your Mac. You don't have to send a single bit of information to any of these big corporations if you're worried about it. This goes back to privacy that you now have. That's why this generation of AI is so interesting. Look, here's the thing. This genie is not going back in the bottle. If I can walk up to the cashier at my local Harris Teeter and find 3 magazines about AI, or 30% of the Super Bowl commercials were about AI. This is public information. This is out there. This is happening. It's not stopping. Or this weekend in China, in Shenzhen, China, the government opened workshops for people, anyone. People showed up from 6 to 66 to learn how to use OpenClaw. They're actually giving their citizens money to be on the leading edge of this. And it's not just China. This is a picture from New York City, one of the Claw cons. They're in San Francisco, they're in London, Tel Aviv, all over the world. People are getting excited about this product I'm showing you today because they finally feel engaged. It's for them. And then some people will charge you a boatload of money to install OpenClaw on your own computer. And they're getting that money. So think about it. By the way, I don't charge anywhere near as much as that. But the idea is this is the world you're in right now. Embrace it, fight it, whatever. You now live it. And it's kind of pretty impressive. For a product, if you think about it, that didn't exist 4 months ago. OpenClaw was launched in November by one developer in Austria. He now sold the company to OpenAI for $1 billion or so. And everywhere all over the planet, people are using this product. The CEO of NVIDIA called it the most important piece of software ever invented. That's not my hyperbole, that's his. All right, so I'm going to land this ship by giving you some things you can do right now. The first one is shift your thinking. This is not about what will AI do to me. What will AI do for me is how you should think about it. And do what I did, right? Identify the things you do every morning that are repetitive. Checking your email, searching the internet, looking at social media, going shopping. Anything that can be automated will be automated and can be done for you. So that frees you up to do other things. The second one is just pick your platform. I mentioned 3 of them. OpenClaw is free. It's really hard to set up and get right, but it's amazing when you get it right, as I think I've shown you. You can use Perplexity. You can use Claude. They're much more out of the box. Just turn them on and they work. They'll take you longer to figure out how to get them to work, and they will be still locked on your one computer, and they will not be cheap. You will spend, to do the stuff that I've done, you will spend $10 a day on these systems. But, you know, can you hire an assistant for $1.25 an hour? Like, this is your assistant. Maybe it's worth it. And again, if you're not ready for any of that stuff, let me know if you need help. I can come to your house and do it. Look, the Industrial Revolution was machines that amplified our muscles. And we use those machines every day. The digital renaissance is machines that amplify our minds. We've never had that before. Scary, but it's amazing. Look, the calculator didn't make mathematicians obsolete. It freed them to focus on bigger problems. The computer didn't make writers obsolete. It gave them tools to reach millions of people they could never reach. AI is not going to erase human creativity or outsource our minds. It just won't. What it will do is free us to do the things that only humans can do. Pass off the drudgery to these machines, which we have to use manually anyway. Look what I was doing with my keyboard. When AI works for us, not just with us, that frees us up to do these truly human things. Create, inspire, have empathy, joy, care, love. I could make the point that the reason the world is so challenging right now is we're all focused on our own stuff, not on our world and what it needs. Look, my dad built the wires that made calculators possible, and I'm using those wires to send bedtime stories to his great-granddaughter. It's amazing what we've done in a short generation. I can't even imagine what she's going to do, what her life's going to be. Imagine what her future with these tools are going to unlock. And it just blows my mind. And the stories that I send her are not about tech. They're about courage and kindness and caring and family, things that humans can get to focus on. And we can even use these AI agents to focus on that too. Sadly, my dad died in September last year. And that's why I talk about him a lot. Kind of think I hear him calling me to use these tools and the time that they've given me to give back, to help others, to kind of do for humanity what he did for his fellow coworkers when CAD systems came in. So that's why I created the site. Like the reason my newsletter exists is to help people understand technology, especially AI, not with fear and concern, but actually optimism and hope and some pragmatism in the middle. It's not Pollyannish. The reason I have AI for the rest of us is I had the good fortune of working for Steve Jobs when personal computers had that same feeling. But it turned out the Mac was the computer for the rest of us. This personal AI that I showed you today is AI for the rest of us. This will absolutely give you the power to be your best. And I invite you to sign up for my newsletter. You can read the newsletter that we created after I finish editing it and pass it by and make sure it makes sense. But I promise you, the whole purpose of this is no jargon, no fear mongering, just from someone who's been in the industry for 30 years and seen these shifts before, what to think about and what to hope for. And maybe if it works, you can pass it on to people who are not as technical as you or the folks online. For folks that might be scared, just send them my way or at least sign up. All right. Finally, yes, AI will change work. The calculator, the computer, the internet did the same. And each time we worried about what we were going to lose, and each time we discovered things we couldn't imagine, that's where we are right now. For 50 years, we've been teaching wires to think, and now they've learned to work, not just with us, but for us. I can't imagine what the next 50 years are going to be like. Let me be the first human to welcome you to the era of personal AI. Thank you. All right. Do you have questions from online? We can take any if we have here.
You know
All right.
the autonomous score
Autonomy score?
for how well the bot is doing, how much it's doing on its own?
Yeah.
Does Storm prescribe review the delta between your draft and what you actually posted? And, like,
That's a great question. So the question is, does Storm look at what I posted versus what she wrote? Yes. Every day when she says, here's what I gave you, she knows that when I hit post, where it goes to. And then at night at 11 o'clock, she'll read what I posted and what she drafted and say, oh, I like what you did there. I wouldn't have thought that. And then that is used as content to further train Scribe the next day. So it gets more and more like me. So again, this is an interesting kind of feedback loop. I wrote the content. I'm training the LLM essentially on my content. And that is a digital representative of me in the fullness of time. I didn't think this when I started it, but maybe I leave a digital Steve behind and my kids can ask me questions. We live in that world now. That is possible. I've often told my wife I want to make a digital version of her. Yeah. Go ahead.
Given the rate of how fast technology is changing today, how do you think about how we can provide reassurance or hope to the younger generations, you know, middle school, high school, college kids who haven't had to do this stuff right now and see how easy this is?
Yeah, that's a great question. So how do we help young people
How to like write well, still write well,
to have all the skills they need? When I was young and calculators came into the classroom, teachers picketed the calculator. They said students won't learn math. Math is a human construct, right? We invented it. Calculators just understand what we invented. I believe that's a great question. It goes back to the other one. Understand what is unique about human thinking. Understand why we exist. Our whole ability to basically be the top species of the planet is because we cared for each other. No single human could ever survive a night alone. Well, maybe a night, 2 nights, but you get my point. When you go into a grocery store and you look at the food that's there, you exist because other people you've never met made it possible for you to eat that food. And that's the human promise. Education is the same thing. when you're in a classroom, it's really easy to go, oh, if this isn't on the exam, I don't care about it. Right? You can't make people care, but the people that do actually going to use these tools to unlock pieces of their brain they never knew they had. So when I was young and I had questions for a teacher, and I was really inspired by this. I remember the class, it was a pre-calc class and it was solids of revolution. And I asked my teacher, what happens if you rotate it around the other axis? She didn't have the answer. Now, she's busy. I didn't expect her to have the answer, but her answer to me was, Steve, I hope when you're at college, you get answers to your questions. And I said, I hope so too. But as a teacher, she had an opportunity to engage me, but she's busy. She could very easily put me in front of a system that can answer that question for me and ignite my imagination. I don't know what would have happened if I answered that question versus in that moment, I just felt rejected. It's that's why I'm excited to see what we wrote about this, because I actually do believe we're in this generation where it's not one size fits all. A teacher is too busy. There are students that have more capability and folks that need help. She has to talk to the mean. That's not true anymore. So I think if I was a student, I would be like, this would be my PC. This would be my moment of like, wow, I now have answers to things that I really want to solve. Now, we go back to the other question. Are the answers true? Are they fake news? That's where humans have to come in and use their judgment. That's not something you're going to get from a computer. John.
Yeah, a couple questions from the chat.
Okay.
So here's two. Could you share pricing and how much it would cost to help us set this up? That's one. And then the second is, how can Clawbot handle prospecting, marketing, and creating your sales infrastructure as a solo entrepreneur?
Yeah, on the how much would I charge? I was half kidding, but go to my website and you see my contact information. Tell me what you want to do. I'll figure it out. On the second one, of prospecting and sales, that's actually one of the first uses people have applied this to. And it's kind of a little scary because if you read the success, they're doing kind of what I'm doing. They're searching information about their prospect, what they've written, what they've said. Now they're tailoring the letter, the outreach to them. Hey, I see you play basketball. What do you think about the Knicks, right? Like, and then it sounds like now you've got a hook. And these things are very engaging and they work. At a certain point, we're going to see spam filters that are just be like AI filters. They'll look for AI generated content and they'll say, hey, here's some stuff that came to you. I kind of think it's spam. And if you're using your X-ray vision, if you look on Twitter or any other place, you can kind of tell content's been generated by AI. It sounds like it just wants to keep going. There's no like beginning, middle, end. It's just a lot of facts written in a certain way. So those tools exist. And if you wanted to do that, you absolutely could. When I started doing this 6 weeks ago, there were no skills that enabled that kind of capability. Now people have generated for free their own skills. There are dozens of sales and marketing skills that you can download for free and do this. By the way, the language that you use to write a skill is English. They're markdown files. They're just sentences. They're not code. So if you have a skill that you're really good at, you can just describe it and now make a digital capability that you didn't have before. It's kind of impressive and amazing. Yeah.
So selfishly, I'm sitting here thinking about as someone, I'm not trained in computer science. I'm not the smartest person in this room, but smart enough to do something like figure it out. You said don't use OpenClaw because it's hard to set up, but then these other services are expensive.
Yeah.
So if I don't have a lot of money, but I can figure something out, what would the first steps that you recommend first if I want to do it myself?
So if you want to do it yourself, look, OpenClaw's been out for 4 months. It's still getting better. Every day they push an update. And now it's an open source, well, it's been an open source project, but now you have community people helping it. So it's accelerating how quickly it's getting better. Follow the instructions on the openclaw.ai website. It's essentially a single line that you paste into your terminal. I can't help you if you're on a PC because there's a lot of stuff you have to do. On the Mac, it tends to be a lot easier if you've authorized certain capabilities. And if not, it'll tell you to download it. And then it'll onboard pretty quickly. And then it's going to ask you, it's going to interview you a couple questions. And then at that moment, you simply tell it what you want done. And then it creates these files that exist. Let me show you them. They're called Uh, here we go. I have to get to a folder over here first. So the folks that are worried that this is too hard, I wanted to show you that it's not. So this is the folder where all of our stuff live. And if I go to workspace, there is a file here called identity. This is what she fills out for herself the first time you set it up. That's her name, that's her gender, that's her emoji, hasn't set up an avatar. You can edit this anytime. And then in addition to identity, there's a thing called soul. I know that sounds crazy, but these are the core truths of what it knows, and it won't violate any of these truths. And if you see it violating those, you just edit it in your word processor and it knows. So for instance, one thing that was bothering me is every time it would start to respond to me, it wanted to please me quickly, wanted to create code. I'm like, wait a minute, I think we did that before. So it's like, oh, you're right, we did it. I forgot that. So I was like, here's what I want you to do. Act 0 is check this file called preflight.markdown. And preflight is everything that we've already done. So she reads it first. Now she understands what's going on. She has the context and then she moves on. Anyway, this is how you can create your agent. So it's not hard. It takes some work. It comes out of the box like a Tamagotchi. It doesn't know you, you don't know it, and you work with it. And eventually it gets smarter. You do have to set it up out of the box with one of the LLMs. So you have to get an API key from Claude or Gemini. That's not hard. Some of them have some free minutes they'll give you, but eventually you'll run out. And then for the ones that want to run it locally, you can download this thing called Olama, which then will download to your computer, to your own hard drive, these models that have been trained all over the world. And then even when you want your AI to talk to it, it then uses that locally. So when Scribe was writing the stories in my voice, it wasn't sending that stuff out to Anthropic. It was spawning a local agent and having this run on my own hard drive because it cost me $0 to write that code. And then this is not hard to do. You just download the app, you download the LLMs, and then she can talk to them. And you can just tell her which ones to switch to. Like, what LLM are you on? And it'll probably tell me I'm on Anthropic, and then it'll say, "Do you want me to switch?" You can also do that from your phone. So we're on Claude Sonnet.
Just don't choose the LLM based on the task.
Yes. So I have a blog post about this. Every 30 minutes it wakes up and runs a heartbeat. I don't want that heartbeat to run on an expensive Claude thing, so it runs on a Gemini 2.5, and it can switch it. And all of this stuff is just in a bunch of files, which I haven't shown you, that kind of tell you how they're set up. It's kind of technical, but it's not.
And is that part of the soul file?
No. Anyway, this will get easier. Someone will build a one-click, they'll have an app for it, and it'll just work on your phone. Give it a week if you're worried. Yeah.
What are your favorite open source models, and how do you feel about Chinese tables like DeepSeek?
So the question is, what do I think about all the models that are out there and the Chinese ones? So China is very anxious about this space. They definitely have put a lot of effort into it and they're funding it. So these models that I was just showing you on Olama, half of them are from China. But the beauty of that is they live on my computer and have no way of sending that data back out. By the way, my skytech.io website, where I had 400 posts, was scanned by China 2 months ago, and it built its intellect around my content. I could have stopped it, didn't have the time, but that's what's happening. So the answer is, the beautiful thing about these are they're cheap and they run locally. The scary part is they've already been trained on content that they have scraped. That's also true of most of the models here in the US. But what's happening now is the science. We used to think, 6 months ago, we used to think that the intellect would get to a point and then sort of hit a plateau. Now we're finding as these things are retraining themselves, they're getting smarter faster, which is scary to other people. And in fact, the people who wrote the current Claude LLM have said for the last 3 or 4 releases, no human has touched it. The code is self-improving because they're better at this than humans are, because the skill didn't exist for humans to learn 6 months ago. So the answer is it's amazing. Give it time. It will kind of plateau. And I'm not concerned about the AGI stuff that everyone is worried about, that all of a sudden the AI is going to become self-aware and it's going to be an episode of Terminator. Not going to happen.
Any open source model do you like, or do you just let OpenClaw kind of take from this?
So this is a great question. Are there any OpenClaw models that I like? The reason I have these here, the ones that don't have the downward arrow, is because I had Storm early on, like a month ago, interview all of these LLMs in writing style. I'm not a coder. Most of these are meant for coders. I said, find the best one that would write like me. And it sent each one of them a task. And then it came back an hour later and said, Steve, here's what I learned. This one does this, with this one is, no matter how much you try, this one won't drop the M dash. Like it went through and told me, it created a list of what it was good at. And so that's why I've picked these. And then, I don't know, Friday, there was a new one that came out. I said, let's go check that one. And it's like, nah, it's not as good. By the way, this is something that I learned by accident, and it's a little humbling. Every day I find new stories on Twitter or X, and I bookmark them. And then I tell my agent to go check my bookmarks and see if there's anything new. And then when I'm really excited, like I was going grocery shopping with my wife, I used Telegram. I said, what do you think of this one? And this one was about a tool that could create many and manage many agents. And it said to me, Steve, just focus on what you're supposed to do, which is write content. This is for running a company. You don't have a company yet. It's like, it was a little humbling, but it wasn't wrong. So that's another way like you can interface with it. The other thing that's new, and I get the latest 5.4 release by OpenAI is a little snarky. Like it has a little tone to it, and you can make your agent snarky, but this one is kind of built in. And I asked it to do something, and it was like, "Are you sure? Like that's going to cost you this much? Are you walking around with that much money in your wallet? Like maybe there's a better way to do it." And it was right. Like so, it's kind of fun. Any other questions? Yeah.
What do you think the pace of these agent adoptions will be for businesses?
Untold. So what's the pace of adoption for businesses? So there's not a business that I know of that hasn't had to find money to experiment with this. This is one of those things where if you're left behind, if you're early and you're wrong, that's worse than being late and right. Right. So these companies are spending money, and maybe at the expense of hiring young people or letting some older people go, whatever, to invest in this, because none of this was in their capital or OpEx budget a year ago. But they have to do it. It's the reason why all these LLM providers are in this arms race against each other, or even with the Pentagon, true arms race, because they can't let out. It's like a winner takes all kind of thing. But we've seen this before. There's never a winner takes all. It never works that way. There's always 3 companies that end up figuring it out. And eventually there ends up being ones that focus on democracy and protection. And we're seeing that right now. Companies that won't let the government use robots to attack other countries or surveil citizens. Yeah.
How many automations or agents are you able to vote with? And how do you transfer that to the private sector? Like, let's say we're going to automate a bunch of stuff, and how many automations am I going to delegate to one single human to supervise all of it?
Yeah, that's a good question. How do you divide and conquer with the number of automations that you can manage yourself? As I mentioned before, I think we're going to come to a point where we're going to wonder how many people do long division anymore on a chalkboard. Can't count them all on hand. How many people use a calculator or a spreadsheet? Everybody. It's going to be the same thing with this tool. You're not going to say like, what can I do with it? You're just going to do it. And it's just going to be part of your daily life. And we're going to see this again coming from the consumer segment where you're wearing these devices that are on your ear, helping you learn something or whisper who you're about to meet. It's absolutely going to help allow our brains to focus on things that only we can do versus the kind of keeping up with just doing busy work. I know we're out of time, but when I look back on my career, I believe the number one skill that I had in my job across all jobs was building PowerPoint slides. That in order for me to do my job and communicate what I do, I had to get good at writing slides. That is not a skill I'm proud of. That is a skill I had to enable in myself just to do my job. So I'm excited about what this will do to allow us to just offload that stuff to an agent that can do it. By the way, every single one of these images, other than the photos that I've taken, were generated by AI after I sent it my draft for my presentation. That would have taken me half the time. And I would have gotten sidetracked in it, to be honest with you, resizing it. So I think we're seeing the early days of AI improving what humans can do, and I couldn't be more excited. Thanks for taking the time to be with me today. Thank you online.